If you've ever used Google Maps to plot a new route through a city, if you've ever had Netflix recommend a great new movie to you, if you've ever had your camera find your face and automatically remove the red eye, you're using artificial intelligence technology. But there's so much more to artificial intelligence than just a better Netflix experience and camera gimmicks. What I'm here to tell you about today is how artificial intelligence is also deeply changing how we think about traditional concepts of intelligence, humanity, and our place in the universe. So to help you understand where I'm coming from with this, I'm going to tell you a story from my life about how I first got interested in these ideas. In October 2010, I appeared on the game show Jeopardy! I played in 4 games, and I puzzled over more than 250 questions. And in the weeks leading up to my appearance on the show, I studied pretty hard. I read encyclopedias, I practiced on online quizzes, I developed various strategies for certain types of tricky questions. And I thought I did pretty well. You know, I won 3 games, and I got some tricky Final Jeopardies, and I made some money, not bad for a couple days of work, right? But 3 months after I went on the show, IBM's Jeopardy-playing robot, Watson, played in a show match against Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter, 2 of the all-time greats to ever play the game, and he absolutely wiped the floor with them. And it seemed like all of my hard work had been made a little insignificant. Now, when the shows aired, I watched them eagerly, of course, and when I did, I was struck by how much of myself I could see in Watson. When I watched... It's true. When I watched the shows, I felt like I could understand why Watson made certain decisions, why it guessed on certain questions or hedged on certain bets. It felt like I was watching a real player's decision process up there, not just some mechanical computer. In short, it felt like I was watching something intelligent. Now, was Watson really intelligent? It's a good question, and answering it is going to take us deep into the heart of what we think makes something intelligent. So, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about intelligence. What is intelligence? Well, one way to think about intelligence is that despite the fact that we share 96% of our DNA with chimpanzees, intelligence is the reason why after tens of thousands of years, they're still doing this, and we're doing this, and this, and this. See, intelligence is kind of like our human X factor, right? It's what makes us who we are. It's so important to us as a species that we named ourselves after it. Homo sapiens means the wise ape. And yet, despite intelligence's central importance to our species, it's actually a very tricky concept to define. The intelligence scholar R.J. Sternberg once conducted a poll among expert scientists. He asked them to all come up and collaborate on a definition of intelligence that everyone could agree on. And the result of his poll, there seemed to be almost as many definitions of intelligence as there were scholars asked to define it. Okay, so intelligence is a tricky concept to talk about and define, but feasible definitions of intelligence have changed over the 20th century, and one of the primary drivers of that change has been artificial intelligence technology. If you'd asked scholars at the turn of the century what components make up intelligence, they would have said its mathematical ability. It was seen as this high, abstract capability, the pinnacle of human thought. IQ tests at the time routinely included, multiplication, addition, arithmetic problems on them. And the invention of the digital computer changed all of that. See, with these machines that could do enormous calculations at lightning-fast speeds, arithmetic came to be seen as something that was rote and mechanical and certainly not intelligent. And so then the intelligence scholar said, well, no, it's really more about being able to follow an argument and do logical deduction and deduce facts given information. And in 1959, Newell and Simon, 2 AI pioneers, demonstrated the general problem solver, which could prove geometric theorems and perform logical inference and solve simple puzzles. And then the intelligence scholar said, well, no, you're really just following a different set of rules. It's actually more about being able to change your mind and reason flexibly and think under uncertainty. And then now we have these Bayesian networks that can reason probabilistically and can deal with fuzzy logic and can change their mind in the face of new evidence. And so the cycle has continued pretty much up into the present day. Every time computers take a step into what we previously thought intelligence was, intelligence scholars scale it back and they keep computers out and they make it an exclusively human domain again. And so what I'm here to say is that this distinction between biological and artificial intelligence is entirely the wrong way to be looking at it. We should be thinking of both of these things as manifestations of the same general principles of intelligence. One way that I like to think about it is by drawing an analogy to another formerly mysterious phenomenon, and that is flight. When we first set out to make flying machines, we had examples in nature of things that could fly. We saw birds, we saw insects, but we didn't build airplanes by replicating those things. Instead, we worked to understand the general principles that allow things to fly. We developed a theory of physics, aerodynamics, and that led to concepts like drag and lift. And that's how we made airplanes. And so the analogy to artificial intelligence here is that AI is not about perfectly replicating a human. It's about figuring out the principles that allow agents to act intelligently and improving upon those. We need to take a step back from the idea that human behavior is the only thing that defines intelligence, and realize that humans are just one manifestation of the more general principles of intelligence. Okay, so back to Watson. Was Watson intelligent? Well, Watson's design wasn't specifically meant to mimic a human's, but the way that Watson solves problems on the algorithmic level bears certain similarities to how humans think. See, Watson was not connected to the internet. Watson had a database full of primary sources, books, plays, movies, lists of presidents and monarchs, just like I did. And the way that Watson works is by running hundreds of machine learning algorithms, all at the same time, all in parallel. And they each use complicated statistical techniques that run independent of the others, and they return these results to a central decision-making process that integrates all of this information and comes up with a final answer. And this is strikingly similar to models of human cognition in a way that we haven't seen much of before in artificial intelligence systems. Here's another example from Yale's very own social robotics lab, where I've worked for the past 3 years. Among a variety of projects to enhance the artificial intelligence of robots for use with humans is this one, the robot Nico. Headed up by Justin Hart, a PhD candidate in computer science, this project represents another step forward for artificial intelligence that has a lot to tell us about how humans develop, how our own minds work, and how our concepts of intelligence should be expanded. What Nico can do is build up a model of itself, basically given an imperfect model of how its vision system works and how its body acts. Nico can look in the mirror, move around a little bit, and determine which parts of the image are itself and the background. And it uses this mirror image to calibrate and predict its own models of how its body works and how its vision system works. And it can make these highly precise and accurate. Now, what's interesting about this, again, is that this is mirroring the same kind of self-modeling that infants do all the time. Infants don't know how their bodies work, but they're constantly exploring the environment. And they figure out, oh yeah, if I move my arm here, this is how it works. They gradually build up motor control in this way. Here's another example. Over at MIT, they have robots that can follow natural language directions. So you can say things to them like, go straight out these doors, turn left at the bookshelf, stop by the window. And it can actually follow that path. And the way that it works is by doing something called grounded language learning, where it actually pairs symbols, what you're telling it, to things in the environment. So you can say, go past the bookshelf, and it knows bookshelf, okay, and it scans around in its perceptual environment, and it knows that this thing looks like a bookshelf, and it pairs those two things together. And this grounded learning is something that humans do all the time. It's another example of human and machine intelligences using similar algorithmic techniques to achieve a shared goal. Okay, so why am I showing you all of these artificial intelligence systems? Besides the fact that they're incredibly cool, they're all getting at fundamental aspects of what we think it means to be intelligent. We can't say that integrating lots of data in parallel or self-modeling or grounded language aren't components of intelligence. It flies in the face of everything that science tells us about how our own minds work, and it feels forced and unnatural to keep redefining intelligence in the face of new evidence. What I'm saying is this: we can't scale back intelligence anymore. We keep doing this each time, of course, because we're scared. It's a natural response. Humans have always wanted to feel like we were special, unique, sacred somehow. And when we see the fundamental principles of intelligence in these systems, it forces us to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, so why are we special? If it's not our intelligence, if it's not our problem-solving ability, if it's not our reasoning, what is it? And answering this question, fundamentally, is why artificial intelligence is the latest in a series of great scientific revelations with vast potential for humanity. We used to think that we stood at the center of the universe, but we overturned that and we got modern physics and astronomy. We used to think that we'd been specially created, put here on Earth, different from all other animals. But we overturned that, and we got evolution and modern genetics. We used to think that we were different from non-life somehow, that we had this vital force that made us different from other matter. But we overturned that, and we got biochemistry. And so the question that I want to leave you all with today is this: what will we gain when we finally abandon the notion that intelligence is an exclusively human domain? Thank you.